Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you. Hi there, I'm Sarah Kuhn. Welcome to another episode of The Quiet Ones. I am so excited for this episode, you guys. We are talking to Ross Rosenberg, who wrote The Human Magnet Syndrome, which is all about surviving narcissistic abuse. It is a book that has really changed my life. Everything started to make sense once I read that book. Things like, for me personally, being attracted to narcissistic people, not only in relationships, but bosses and friendships. And I had no idea why I was like that. And then I read this book and I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I know that I talk to a lot of the listeners, and I talk to a lot of people who find me through my blog and through my Instagram, and they ask me the same questions, like, why am I attracted to toxic people? Why am I attracted to narcissists? How do I get past this? How do I get over it? And the good news is that Ross has all of the answers for us. So without further ado, we're going to get straight to the interview. Today, we're talking to Ross Rosenberg, who's the author of The Human Magnet Syndrome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Sarah.
I read your book towards the end of last year, and I have to tell you, it's really changed my life. The book, there's so much in there that I identify with, and it explains so much for me. I spent so much of my life being attracted to narcissists like a magnet, not only in relationships, but in jobs and in friendships. And now that I have this podcast and blog, there are so many people who come to me who have the same problems. So it's been a really, really amazing resource for me. Can you tell us what the human magnet syndrome is?
Yeah, the human magnet syndrome, the idea is, actually I should start off and say it's kind of a piece of me. I had to figure out why I kept falling in love and marrying people that seemed so nice in the beginning, so beautiful, so lovable, so attractive, and the relationships felt so natural, so easy, and then it would devolve into dysfunction, difficulty, harm. And, so as my dad would say, what starts off as a soulmate would end up as a cellmate. And so, I just couldn't deal with the shame, being a psychotherapist, that me, a guy who tries to help people solve their problems and, couples therapy, marital therapy, and yet I kept falling in love with these harmful women. So I dug really, really deep in my own therapy and started to realize that there are forces inside of us that compels us to find a partner who feels right, who is a perfect fit. Kind of like a dancing couple. You got a leader and you got a follower. And if the dance is going to feel right, the two have to be matched, and they're opposite. They have their opposite roles. And if they both want to dance, they will be attracted to each other. So then came this idea of these codependents who are selfless, altruistic, patient, kind, giving. They always seem to fall in love with this harmful person. But the harmful person is the opposite. They're self-centered. they're taking, they're entitled, they're controlling. And I came up with this idea that unconsciously, codependents are attracted to their opposite narcissists, like magnets. Magnets, you got the North Pole is always attracted to the South Pole. If you have two magnets that are north and north, they push each other away. So the human magnet syndrome became the idea that explained to the world why codependents reflexively, predictably, and habitually fall in love with narcissists.
Yeah, it happens so much to me, honestly. And you said in your book too that there's a reason for it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's not a coincidence that my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, has sold 100,000 copies and is in 7 languages. And my YouTube channel has like 16 million views. It's not because anything other than these ideas are helping people understand who they are. And if you understand who you are and why you keep falling in love with the same person, as my therapist once told me, you know, she said, Ross, you're falling in love with the same person, but with a different face. Or she would tell me, the problem is you have a broken picker.
My friends tell me that about the jobs that I have.
Oh, yeah.
You have the same terrible job over and over again. You have the same terrible boss over and over again. And the problem is you.
The human magnet syndrome can be generalized or applied to all relationships, romantic, family, and workplace. But to understand why codependents, or what I now call people with self-love deficit disorder, or the individual is the person who's self-love deficient, who I call the SLD, and we'll talk about that later, why I changed the name. The reason that they, in this dance, that they feel so comfortable with is that almost all SLDs or codependents were born in families in which they suffered attachment trauma, which is early childhood trauma, because one of their parents was a pathological narcissist, had a personality disorder that had a narcissistic core. And when you are born to a pathological narcissist, there's 2 paths you can take as a child. You can figure out how to be the child that the narcissist always wanted and be the trophy child, the pleasing child, the child that feels like a gift to the narcissist. If you can somehow mold yourself into the prince, the princess, the overachiever, the quiet one, the handsome, the beautiful one, somehow you can mold yourself to be the extension of the narcissist, then in your childhood, you get conditional love. If you please the narcissist, if you don't anger the narcissist, if you don't disappoint the narcissist, say it's your dad, then you are the center of that narcissist's life. And you learn early on that to be loved, you have to make someone happy while dismissing your own natural inclination to be yourself. Now, on the other hand, since codependency or self-love deficit disorder is caused during a child's attachment process, if in the same family, a sibling who cannot find a way to please their parent, who can't be the apple of their eye, the loved, the child, and that child, like any other person, will trigger the narcissist with a narcissistic injury. The narcissist needs children to feel good about themselves. And the child that can't make them feel good is going to be at the losing end of their attention. They're going to either be ignored, they're going to be a target for their anger, they're going to trigger narcissistic injuries. So that child's attachment phase, which is so important in the development of humans from age 0 to around 7, is going to be dangerous and harsh and broken. And that child is going to grow up with what I call the relationship template, that you're not lovable for being yourself, and the only person that's going to take care of you is yourself. So we look at every child's attachment process. A healthy parent makes a child naturally lovable because of unconditional love. The pathological narcissist, if the child can somehow be the pleasing or trophy child, they grow up with the relationship template that I am a human doing. If I can take care of someone, I'm lovable. And that morphs into the human magnet syndrome in adulthood.
So what if you come from a happy family where you feel like you get along with your parents, maybe you get along with your siblings, but you don't have a background that really feels like abuse, or that where you can just automatically pinpoint, yes, that, one of my parents was a really bad narcissist. How?
Well, first of all, you don't have a happy family if one of your parents is a narcissist.
Right.
So let's address that, because that it's impossible, because the environment in which the narcissistic parent raises a child is strewn with shards of glass. You walk on eggshells. There's to be happy is to be free of the threat of harm, reaction, free of the threat of abandonment, free of the threat of conditional love. So there's no such thing of a happy childhood when a pathological narcissist is a parent. Now, I will slightly alter your question. What happens if a child is brought up in a happy family? What that means is that child has normal parents, and normal means they can have problems. The human condition is so that everyone has problems. Especially parents are always making mistakes. But if they unconditionally love their children and they raise them in a healthy environment, independent of the normal ups and downs, and we'll call that a happy family, because there's no such thing as perfection.
Right.
Becoming codependent is impossible. Becoming self-love deficient is impossible. So there are no SLDs or codependents that I know of who come from a healthy, happy family. Now, I should say that some people think they had a happy family because they have compartmentalized the abuse, the neglect, the abandonment, or forgotten about it, or just don't think about it, and they only try to remember the happy memories. That's what we call dissociation.
And sometimes it feels like that's all you know. So when you're in a different situation, then you're like, this is a little bit weird because I've never known anything else.
Of course, that's how it is with all of us. We grow up, and that's why the attachment phase is so crucial in the development of our personality and our mental health. If we grow up in a family that loves us for who we are unconditionally, I mean, it still means our parent, we can get in trouble and make mistakes. That's all we know. That's the basis. That's the foundation for what we believe the world is and how the world reacts to us.
Sure.
And if you come from a family that is healthy, that manifests healthy relationships. It's really that simple. If you come from a family that's dysfunctional, and which includes a pathological narcissist parent, you're going to manifest that type of relationship in your romantic choices, your social choices, and sometimes in your professional choices.
Yeah. Do you think that there are some people who are more prone to self-love deficit disorder? Some personality types, introverts, or people who are highly sensitive?
The way that I understand and explain the development of self-love deficit disorder, codependency, the beginning of it, the cause, is attachment trauma caused by a childhood and adolescent experience of the harm that is unique to having a narcissistic parent. And usually because of the human magnet syndrome, if you have two parents, then the other one is codependent. And as people will discover when they read my book, they will start to understand that in any relationship, that when there's a narcissist, it's predictable that over 95% that the other partner will be an SLD or a codependent. And you know what? I forgot your question. I kind of got, so, oh yes. So with regard to personality type, we are all born biologically with certain genetically predetermined personality traits, characteristics. And so some like my son is shy. He's an introvert. There's the environment, his childhood had no bearing on him being shy or introverted. It's just, it's who we are. The environment will shape that introversion and make it insecure introversion, make it fearful, shame-based introversion, or the environment can shape that introversion or that shyness and make it confident, optimistic. And that's the difference between a shy or introverted person who is successful, who does not connect their beliefs and what they can or can't do and their introversion or shyness. It might be more difficult if they have a job or a career and where they have to meet people and form relationships, then they work harder. So introversion and shyness is independent of self-love deficit disorder. With that said, if you are born to be naturally shy or sensitive, some children are just more sensitive, and some, parents who have multiple children will all tell you, they have, one child right from the beginning, nothing bothered them. They'd fall, they get back up, and they were just, you can't tell me what to do. They were just born that way. And other children are just sensitive and, more, cautious and afraid to experiment. That often is also biological. So if you are sensitive and you're born with that predisposition, that genetically inherited trait, your experience in your attachment years will be more profound. So if you are a child from a dysfunctional family and one of your parents is a pathological narcissist and you are sensitive, I'm sensitive, my son is sensitive, we're born that way, you are going to experience everything more profoundly, more intensely. And that can have positive impact on the development of a person's personality, or negative. So there is a connection or a correlation between sensitivity and introversion or shyness in codependency, but they really are independent traits, because I've been working with codependents or MSLDs for my whole career, and they come from all shapes and sizes and flavors. I mean, shy, extrovert, talkative, non-talkative,
Right. So you really don't think it has that much impact at all?
It does not. I know for a fact that the cause of self-love deficit disorder or codependency has nothing to do with shyness or introversion. That is not a dysfunctional trait. It's only dysfunctional if the environment shames the person into feeling bad about themselves. There are so many people that are introverted and shy and sensitive that are really, really healthy. If you come from a family that embraces someone's shyness or introversion, life is more challenging for the introverted child. Life is more challenging for the shy child, for sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cause self-love deficit disorder. This is a significant psychological problem that is caused by attachment trauma, which is and I'll repeat myself, it caused from being raised by a pathological narcissist and believing that the only way you can be loved is by making another person happy, suspending your own needs, molding yourself into the version of a child that the parent wants. And that is highly traumatic and highly detrimental to a child's future mental health or relational health.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good for me to hear that it's not caused from that, because a lot of people make such a big deal about being an introvert, and it's almost like a stigma, and they tell you that you're wrong for being quiet. They tell you that you're wrong for being shy and all of these things, which is part of the reason why I started my blog and my podcast, is because I want to be able to tell people, this, it's not wrong. It's normal to be that way. And just
It's absolutely normal. And the people, I want to suggest something to you. The people that are saying it's wrong to be an introvert, it's wrong to be shy or judgmental, what's up with them?
Yeah.
I mean, who says stuff like that? That's a judgmental person who doesn't have a lot of empathy. And I would suggest that they might have narcissistic qualities. Healthy people don't tell another person that they're wrong for who they are. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's just unacceptable. My son, Ben, was born shy. I'm shy. No one believes me, but you won't know that in these interviews. You won't know it in anything else. When it comes to meeting new people, but because of my confidence, because of my self-esteem, because of all the therapy I've been in, you can't. That shyness does not have a negative impact on my mental health.
Yeah.
But when I was a teen and in my 20s, when I was insecure, I felt unlikable or unlovable. That shyness supported my self-love deficit disorder. It supported my lack of self-esteem. It proved it. So when you have self-love, which is the opposite of codependency or self-love deficit disorder, and you're shy, they're not connected. It's just about understanding some people are short, some people are tall, some people have brown eyes, some people are shy, some people are extroverted. You embrace it and you live with it. So I think the important takeaway from this is that if you are shy, if you are sensitive, if you are an introvert, your listeners, your podcast viewers know this, that it's not a problem unless you have self-love deficiency or poor self-esteem. And I bet $1 million, and I say it rhetorically because I don't bet and I don't have $1 million accessible to me, unless you want to pay me for this interview.
Right.
But I would bet your $1 million that if someone is introverted and they feel like it impacts their relationship choices, they also have self-love deficit disorder and struggle with self-esteem.
So the biggest question that I have for you, I think what we all want to know is, how do we fix this problem? If we do have it, what do we need to do to fix it?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. So I wrote my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, The Codependent Narcissist Trap, which, by the way, is available at my website, selfloverecovery.com. I wrote that to explain what the problem is, because the world doesn't know what this codependency is. So I had to explain it. I had to create a new explanation instead of theories, because if you're going to solve a problem, you got to know what it is. You think of, like lobotomies, they thought they were solving a problem, but they weren't. They were making it worse. Or you think of bloodletting. For 1,000 years, people were, draining people of their blood to solve medical problems. Well, they didn't know what the medical problems were, and the procedures didn't work. So for codependency or self-love deficit disorder therapy to work, you got to know what it is. And that is why I wrote The Human Magnet Syndrome. In fact, I wrote it twice in order to refine my ideas and theories. The resolution or the treatment for self-love deficit disorder is to understand what it is. And it's not the habits. It's not your choices and narcissistic partners. That's the symptoms. The cause has to be, is attachment trauma. It is the trauma experienced as a child. And we're talking, anyone who is an SLD will tell you that they had a really difficult childhood. And from the attachment trauma, and I, on my YouTube channel, and in my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, I explain this in my self-love deficit disorder pyramid. At the base of it is attachment trauma. From attachment trauma is core shame, is this fundamental feeling of being broken or inadequate. From core shame comes this deep existential pain, which I call pathological loneliness, that without being in a relationship, you ache with this feeling of loneliness. From that loneliness comes this compulsion, this addiction to be with another person. I call it codependency or self-love deficit disorder addiction, that you need a relationship to take the loneliness away, the pain. And because you're an SLD or a codependent, the human magnet syndrome predicts that person will be a narcissist. And then at the very top of the pyramid is what we know as codependency or self-love deficit disorders, caretaking, insecurity, being afraid to say what you want, taking care of everyone. So if we're going to solve self-love deficit disorder or codependency, is we have to not only know what it is, where it comes from, but what we need to resolve. And that is why my video and seminar material at Self-Love Recovery Institute at selfloverecovery.com, there are these full-length seminar videos that explain my treatment methods. I call it Self-Love Recovery Treatment, and it's a 10-stage treatment program. And that would be beyond the scope of this discussion, but I do have a 10-stage treatment program that that not only resolves this SLDD, but it transforms it into self-love. And that is when everyone's life changes.
Yes, that is completely amazing. I can't wait to go through all of those videos myself, honestly. And I know that there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast and that read my blog that will definitely be interested in those, because I get a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, the 10 stages really is, and I am going to be writing the book, The Codependency Cure, achieving self-love abundance. And I'm not so sure about the title yet, but I think that's what it is. I'll be writing that, but it probably won't be written for a couple of years. But as a psychotherapist, this is what I do. And I also have these weekend retreats that I have in the Chicago area. And I help people understand that the core of their self-love deficit disorder, it's the trauma. And the problem is therapists don't understand that. And so they're working on this pyramid, they're working on the top of it. You got to get to the bottom of it. And so, people need to trace back their codependency to where it started. And that's when things change. You heal that trauma, you change the core shame into core self-love, you transform the pathological loneliness into a feeling of existential comfort or peace. You take away this addiction and transform that into this compulsion to be with another self-loving person. And then then self-love deficit disorder is gone forever. It's cured, which is why I created the term, the codependency cure. It's gone and it won't come back.
Yeah. And then, that solves your problem with your friends and your jobs and all of the people that you feel like, you're just attracted to all these toxic people. It solves all of those problems.
Exactly. Because remember, we started off with the explanation of the human magnet syndrome. It's a dance. It's the attraction to someone who feels right, who matches up with you. Yeah. And as someone who was self-love deficient, who through this healing, this therapy, this treatment process becomes self-love abundant, they are going to be still attracted to someone that's opposite, exciting and fun, but it will be another person who's also self-love abundant. Because only the narcissist and the codependent, they need each other to feel happy. The person who is self-love abundant, they don't need another person to be happy because they love themselves. And the person they're attracted to will also love themselves. And the human magnet syndrome plays out between the two healthy people as well as it does the dysfunctional people.
So I have one more question that just came to me.
Mhm.
A lot of people who are very deep into Myers-Briggs personality types, they talk about finding the right type, like the right type of person that you're attracted to that
Mhm.
will be like your perfect match. But the way that you explain that, it doesn't seem to me like it would matter that much what type of person it is. It really matters more whether they're healthy or not.
You're
Correct?
right. In my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, I have a chapter called Chemistry. And this might upset some of your podcast viewers. And by the way, I could be wrong. Everyone can make up their mind. I'm
Right.
not here to preach the gospel of the human magnet syndrome. Just, as they say in AA, take the best and leave the rest.
Right.
But I suggest that people who fall in love because of chemistry, um, um, the choice is already made because of their childhood. If you are an SLD, you are going to feel safe and comfortable in what feels familiar and predictable. You will not know what to do with a healthy person. That will feel unsafe. You will know what to do with a narcissist because that's what you've always known. But unconsciously, what happens, consciously is you fall in love with an attractive person that makes you feel good. There's codependents don't think about, I want to meet a narcissist who's going to make me feel like crap. No, they just see someone who's beautiful and interesting and charming, but it always is the narcissist. It's because the person who is all about themselves it makes them feel like they know what to do with that. They know how to be quiet. They know how to ask questions. They know how to listen. They know how to forgive. They know how to sacrifice. So chemistry is the interaction between two people's attachment experience. If you grew up in a healthy family and have self-love, self-esteem, you know how to care for yourself, you are going to be automatically attracted to another healthy person. You don't know it. That's why when people say, there was no chemistry, I know this. It's because it wasn't on how they looked. There was just a feeling. And so you're going to fall in love with the person that matches up with your relationship template. Being shy or introverted. You might fall in love with someone who's extroverted. That's a good matchup. But if you're shy and introverted and you're healthy, you love yourself, you have self-esteem, and there's an extrovert who's a narcissist, all he does is talk about himself, you're not going to fall in love with him. But if you're shy and introverted and there's an extrovert you're shy and introverted and you have self-love abundance, and there's this extrovert who also is self-love abundant, then there's going to be chemistry. So chemistry is more of the unconscious matching up of your relationship templates that come from your childhood. That's why me and everyone else who follows my work will say they keep falling in love with the same type of person. And then if you get married, you'll realize, oh my gosh, I married my mother, or I married my father.
Yes.
Or whoever the narcissist was.
Right.
So I believe that what you guys talk about is really important to understand and to value and to celebrate your identities, your personalities. And it's so great that you created this place where people can have others who they can relate to. But within this, is it INFJ community, there are healthy INFJs, really healthy, and this is a continuum, and unhealthy, and the differences in who they choose as partners has nothing to do with being an INFJ. It's on their level of mental health related to being self-love abundant or self-love deficient.
Yes, that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense when you explain it that way. I really appreciate you being on the show, honestly. There are so many people who ask me these questions, and you explain it way better than I can.
Well, I'm glad. Otherwise you'd be talking to yourself.
That's true. It doesn't work very well that way.
And if I ever need someone to talk to about the Myers-Briggs, you're going to be the one. Yeah,
Well,
and tell people about INFJ and what that means and how you can benefit by understanding it and accepting it and finding your path to embrace it. You would be my definite resource.
I appreciate that. So tell us where we can find you again.
You can find me at the company I created, Self-Love Recovery Institute, at selfloverecovery.com. You can get my book there. You can we have our intensive weekend retreat information there, all of my upcoming seminars. By the way, I only give once a year, I give a live seminar, and I'm going to be giving a 3-day seminar in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, near Albany, New York, at the Kripalu Center, on February 29th and March 1st, on my codependency cure, which is, and that is 3 days. And so if anyone's interested, just go to selfloverecovery.com. You can get my books also at Amazon, but I always say get it at selfloverecovery.com because because of the way royalties and Amazon and everyone wanting to take their share out of my wallet. But,
Right.
but the bottom line is love yourself. And if you can love yourself and be self-love deficient, it just means you have to work. And whether that's through your resources, my resources, or everyone else, life is too short to not love yourself and to be on this hamster wheel in which you're always going to pick the type of person that might feel right, but eventually is going to hurt you.
Yes, for sure. I've always thought that life is way too short, and I get stuck in these situations and I'm like, you know what? It's way too short. I got to figure this out. I have to figure out what the problem is and I have to figure out how to solve it. And now that I have, it's like I want to share that with everybody else so that everybody knows.
Well, I'm so glad that you have this community and this podcast. I think you're doing great work, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview as much as I did. I really enjoyed talking to Ross and learning about self-love deficit disorder. I read his book right here, The Human Magnet Syndrome. I actually have a copy of it on Audible as well. I listen to it sometimes in the car or when I'm at work. I like to listen to books as well. It is really life-changing. Definitely check him out on YouTube as well. There's tons of videos, tons of information. And it's incredibly helpful. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to remind you guys about. I have created a new website that's called INFJ Community. It is all about bringing us together. We keep saying that we need a community, and now we finally have one. So make sure that you head over to infjcommunity.com. You can also find it from my regular website, which is infjwoman.com. On the community website, you're going to see another piece of it that's like a members type of page, which is completely free. Definitely check it out. You're going to find that it's a lot like Facebook, except that you don't have to deal with the algorithm and you don't have to deal with ads. So that's really awesome. Definitely join that community. It's most of the people in there are INFJs. There's a couple of INFPs that I've invited. There's an ENFJ that I've invited, but they're all very similar to us. And there's going to be a lot of different groups in there. There's also going to be events, hopefully very soon, live in-person events, but also online events too. And it's just a great way for us to connect and to learn about each other and to learn from each other too. There's a space for writers as well. Part of the INFJ community website is giving you guys a platform to be able to share your work as well as just reading mine. And there's already some amazing articles up there. So if you are a writer and you would like to contribute, please, I would love to read what you have to say. And even if you're not a professional writer, I wasn't a professional writer a year ago. I don't even know if I consider myself a professional writer now. I just like to write, and I feel like I have something that I need to share with the world, and I'm absolutely positive that you do too. And if you want to write, you can write about anything, really. There are several different topics that you can see at the top of the website when you go over there to infjcommunity.com. And if you pick something that falls within those topics, it works. And if it doesn't fall within those topics, send me an email and we'll talk about it, and we'll kick around some ideas and see what we can make work. So check that out. And also make sure that you subscribe. Go over to YouTube too. All of these podcasts are done on YouTube as well, so you can watch the video interview, which is youtube.com/The Quiet Ones Podcast. And make sure that you subscribe wherever you're listening, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is. Make sure that you subscribe, leave a review. It helps to have other people find us. And I would really, really, really appreciate it if you would share this video with everybody, everyone that you know. Post it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever it is that you can share it. I would really appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening. It absolutely means the world to me.